Welcome to Green and Woke on YouTube. We hope you enjoyed this segment. The link to the entire podcast can be found in the description box. Yes, hello, and we're back. This is Kimberly Ryans, your host for Green and Woke. We have a really interesting guest with us today. His name is Joe Burns, and he's a photographer. Hi, Joe. How are you today? Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Well, Houston, it's springtime now, so the weather is much better. So I'm feeling a little better now. We had a horrible little winter, little taste of the winter like they get in Northeast and everywhere. So we're back on track now. So I'm happy.
Yeah, you guys got hit hard this year.
We did, and it knocked us on our tails. It came out of nowhere. We weren't ready for it, but we're better now. We're better now.
Good. Wonderful. That's great.
So, tell us about yourself, Joe, and your work.
Sure. I've been in the entertainment industry for, quite some time. I moved to Los Angeles in 1986 from New York. I'm from New York. And moved out to LA to pursue a career as an actor. Did that for a while to some small degrees of success.
Okay.
But as a kid, I always had an interest in photography. So I always had a camera on me. I always wanted to document my life, and I love to kind of photograph in a journalistic style,
great.
When I'm shooting people. I like to photograph life happening. But saying that, when I went to LA, everyone's like, well, you should be a headshot photographer. I'm like, no, I don't want to actually work with actors, So I didn't really do it. I didn't pursue it as a career in LA.
Okay.
Since leaving LA, I have really been pursuing it, and I've been doing weddings, and I do fashion, I do events, I do a little bit of everything. I mean, my favorite thing to do is nature. I've traveled pretty extensively. I've been 6 continents. Spent 5 months in Africa photographing Africa, which was amazing.
I bet.
And just been all over the place, and I just have a love of travel. I literally work so I could travel, and photograph and capture life as it's happening, and the world as at least I know it. So many people don't get the opportunity to travel, so I get to share with them my journey, because with my photography, I do a YouTube channel as well of my travels. Which
amazing.
Is kind of cool.
I bet it is. So what inspires you to travel into places like Haiti and Africa? That sounds so amazing. I can't imagine.
I was raised, to always help those in need. So whenever something's happening in the world, it's so hard because I'm like a sponge and I absorb it all. So it hasn't. This past year has really kind of taken a hit to my mental well-being.
I bet all of us,
for so many.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to Haiti right after the earthquake, I wanted to kind of go down and help. I was in LA, and I was not happy in LA any longer, and I'm like, you know what, I can't. I'm sitting here miserable in LA, and I could be somewhere else helping.
A purpose. You had purpose doing that.
Yeah, I went online, and I was looking for organizations that I could go help with, and I went down, with this one gentleman who started an organization, worked with him, and when we were down there, we built a school. We were going to build a house, and then we built a school.
Oh, that's
so
great.
At least we started to build on the school, and then we were only there for 5 to 7 days, and then I went back a year later, and I was able to bring in a nurse and a contractor with me, and we went down and we kind of worked on the school some more, and I got to visit the school, which was really great. I love to kind of give back and help people in need, by doing that, it just fills me more than I think it helps the people. And I get so much more out of it. It's so much more gratifying to me, Especially because I lived in LA for 25 years, and when you're in LA and you're in the industry, it's like you're surrounded by people who are so self-absorbed, and they're all about things and stuff and acquiring stuff they can't afford,
exactly,
cars they can't afford. So it's I just like to kind of like get out and get in touch with people, around the world, and interact with people from different cultures and different backgrounds. So yeah.
Well, that's
I've been doing that since I was a kid. I mean, I always knew as a little boy, I want to travel. I want to go out there in the world, because I knew there was something bigger than the hometown that I grew up in.
Oh, wow. Well, that is so great. And thank you for doing that, because volunteerism is just, it does awaken something in yourself. It's like it touches a part in yourself that you didn't even realize it was there. A lot of times it's like, wow, I really, and it's, at the end of the day, it's about self-gratification and knowing that you've done all you can to help a cause. That's incredible. So thank you for tapping into that.
Thank you. And I do that with my photography as well. I mean, I do volunteer. I've been associated with AIDS Project Los Angeles since the early 90s.
Okay.
And I was a volunteer coordinator there. Okay. And so now, with my photography, when I'm available, if I'm in a city, either New York, San Francisco, or LA, when they're doing the walkathon, I always kind of make myself available to shoot the events. So, and I volunteer my services for that organization. And I think it's important to just, just be of service. Yeah. That's why we're here.
I know, right? Because, when you believe in your higher power, and you know that the universe and God uses us to complete the work. I mean, that's why we're here. Yeah. And, to answer someone's prayer, it could just be as simple as, giving them a smile, because they might just want to connect with someone. You just never know the impact that you have just by giving a helping hand. It's just amazing. Yeah, just mankind. It's like we're all humans. We all have feelings. We need to connect with one another. So it just, that's why it's so disturbing, the state of the world today. And for example, the whole thing that's going on with George Floyd right now, and you're working on this project that you recently launched, just a new project, and that incident has just touched the world in a way we have not been moved before. I mean, everyone's eyes were glued to the television. You couldn't believe your eyes. Like, are we literally watching this happen in front of us right now? And it's
crazy. And the thing is, I watched it all day today.
Yeah,
we're waiting on the verdict now.
Right.
But during the pandemic, I happened to be traveling. I was sheltered in place in Northern California for a while.
Okay.
And then once the state of California opened up, I went on a road trip. And it just happened to be at the very time of when George Floyd was murdered.
Wow.
And we witnessed him be murdered.
Yes.
So literally, I'm driving throughout the United States, and it was a very odd time to be out there, because we're under quarantine, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Exactly.
People are pretty much homebound. Wow. And I happened to be out on the road, and I remember pulling into Los Angeles, where I lived for many years, and I pulled into LA and I checked into my hotel room, and like my old neighborhood was like literally a war zone. It was on fire.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, it was very reminiscent of the Rodney King riots, which I was in LA for that as well.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I was on the edge of my seat, and I was like, I cannot believe. And because of social media, we're aware of everything.
Everything,
so
yes.
It was magnified.
Yes.
And I as a photographer, I'm thinking, wow, this is insane. I felt kind of like, here I am out here at this time, and while this is happening, history is in the making.
That's
and
right.
I'm a photographer, and okay, I'm going to go document it.
Right.
And as a photojournalist, you really have to be very sensitive, because what you're photographing people are living.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. That is
And
so true.
you have to be very, very, I mean, of course you want to tell the story.
Yes.
But you want to be sensitive to those involved in the story.
Yeah,
like I
you
remember
have to be.
during 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know, some of the images of like people jumping from the towers.
Oh.
It's like that's someone's husband, wife, son, daughter.
Exactly.
And it's like it's a very powerful image which tells the story of that day and what we went through at that time. And I feel like, you know, me being out there on the road, and I happen to be in big cities like LA and San Diego and Las Vegas and San Francisco and Oakland and Portland while this was happening. And, you know, as we all know, Portland is a very progressive city that is out there for every cause. And so I got to be out there, and I captured, like, the temperature of the country.
Oh, wow.
You know, I captured a lot of the messaging, you know, through the graffiti and the artwork that was, you know, all over all these cities.
Yeah.
So I thought, God, well, you know, I got all this imagery, and I was talking to people when I was out on the road and stuff like that, and I'm like, you know what, this is going to be my first book. Like, I mean, I've got a ton of images, and I got a ton of different ideas for different projects, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is what needs to be my first book. So I created this photo book called Justice for George, and I feel like now I need to do a follow-up just called Justice, because there's been so many black men killed since George Floyd, you know, unnecessarily. So it was a very powerful time to be out there, you know?
Yes, I can imagine. And with a project like this, like you say, you have to be sensitive, but say I'm in Houston, Texas. And you often wonder, well, what is the climate on the other side of the country, or what are they doing in these cities? And we were able to see that, like you say, through social media and the news networks.
Right.
You know, they showed all of the protests. Around the world. I mean,
around the world.
This affected you couldn't have been a human being and watch that and not be affected by it. I mean, so for you to be able to capture that, you know, in various areas in the country, I think that's got to be powerful. That's got to be powerful.
It was very powerful, and you know, when I put the book together, it's a very simple, small book with there's not much text in the book at all, because I wanted the images to speak for themselves. Because when I was in these towns and walking through these towns that have been, you know, there's been rioting and looting and protesting, and I am walking through these towns that are literally boarded up, and just reading all of the messages, and some of them were just so I can't, you know, because I'm a white man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was just thinking that, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because it's like you're an ally to what's going on to our community. And we do appreciate all of you that are standing up for us. And I saw a really, really powerful message online the other day. This lady was speaking out, and she was like, okay, now I'm talking to our allies. You know, those of you who understand what's going on in the community, you're close to us, you're our friends, you know, co-workers. And it's like, what is it going to take? You know, what message is going to get out there? Like, you know, are you going to speak to your cousins and brothers? And you know what I'm saying? It's like the allies that we have, we've got to appreciate that, because you're in this struggle right alongside of us, and you understand to a certain degree what we're going through, and how, you know, at some point it's like you almost feel helpless. It's like, what can we do? This is still happening after George Floyd, and in Minnesota. Like, that is so mind blowing. Yes.
It's insane to me. And, you know, the thing is, you know, you know, the last presidency, it created so much division in the country. And, you know, I've always had an interest as a kid to get out and see the world and interact with the world. And I work in hospitality, so I meet people from all over the world all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel most comfortable. I like to interact with people that are different, so I could learn.
Okay.
And what I found through all this is like, if you don't travel and you stay in your little
bubble, exactly,
that the family puts you in, or society puts you in, or whatever,
right,
then your mind, it does not open.
No, it doesn't.
And it's very frustrating, because I was just back home recently, and it's like, I was saying about the hate crimes among Asians.
Oh, yes.
The coronavirus being called the Kung Flu.
That's
and
terrible.
The China virus. And I'm thinking, words matter. And then I had someone say to me, Joe, do you honestly think, like, hate crimes are up because Donald Trump said that? I said, absolutely. And the fact that you don't think that scares the hell out of me.
You know?
It's like scares the hell out of me.
Oh my God, wake up. Exactly. It's like, come on, that has something to do with it. And those,
and it's just horrifying. And people choose. It's funny. I was talking to my aunt who's 81, and she's like, Joe, a lot of people my age, they want to believe what was. They want to hold on to what was rather than believe what is. And I thought, wow, that's very powerful.
It is. It is.
Because they're very strong in their beliefs, or what they were taught, or however they were brought up. And it's like, I think you have to. I'm only a 2-year college educated, person. I'm not book smart, but I'm street smart. I go out there in the world and I interact.
Yes, and you're a human being. It's like, I think a lot of people just want to keep the status quo because, let's be honest, there's a privilege there, for white America. There's a privilege there. And they're like, well, what happens if that's rattled?
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I drove out here from New York the other day, and I got here and I got stopped. I forget what state it was in. I think it was in Kansas. And I was doing like 90 miles an hour in a 65.
Admittedly.
While texting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, that's not smart. But
no.
Open country road, and I got stopped by the cops.
Yeah.
And the cops came up to me and they're like, you need to slow down and you need to not text. And then they sent me on my way.
They just warned you.
And I posted that on Facebook, and my friends are like, you should have got a citation. I'm like, exactly, I should have got a citation. I just brought it up because if it was a black person, it would have been a totally different scenario.
Yes.
I said, I realized that, and people who don't think white privilege exists they're full of it, because it does exist.
It
just
does.
by the color of your skin.
Yes.
And it's like, and people need to realize that and kind of get on their own, whatever their thought process is, it's a shame that people are so, they don't want to open their mind to anything that is different. When I went to New York City last week for the first time since the pandemic, and I'm from New York, and I went into New York City, and I was doing one of my YouTube videos, which is called, my YouTube channel is called Where is Joe? And it's just travel videos wherever I go. And I'm in New York City, and I was doing a video showing New York City, which was empty. Times Square, Broadway, empty. And I'm doing this video, and I said, what's really interesting to me is when people come to New York City from a small city, or when they travel with someone, they are fearful because all of a sudden they're surrounded by people who don't look like them and people who don't sound like them.
Yeah.
And so therefore, they're afraid of what they don't know, because they when they're in their own cities or states or countries, they stay in their own neighborhoods.
Right.
And I think the worst thing we could do as a society is have a Chinatown, a Little Italy, because it's our older generations who kind of kept us segregated.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need to interact with people to learn,
Yeah.
and to not be afraid. And it's like, and to me, I was like, when I was doing the video, I was like, that really, it hurts me that people are so fearful of what they don't know, and like, I feel because of that, they miss out on so much life.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. You have to be willing to expand your boundaries.
You've got to be,
what you know.
Because this world has opened up. I mean, and there was a time when we couldn't interact, personally, and black people couldn't interact with everybody else. It's like they put us in our own little segregated cities or just, neighborhoods or whatever. But, as time progressed and the kids started going to school with each other, all nationalities, like my daughter, her school looks like the United Nations, she has friends of all ethnicities.
And that's what it should look like.
Yeah, that's the world we live in. That's today, the world we live in.
That's what New York City is.
Yeah,
it's a melting pot.
Yeah, Houston is as well. It's just amazing how it's such a diverse city. But, all over the country, it's not like that. There's still little pockets of segregation everywhere, and then when people come together, like you say, when you leave out of your bubble and you see these, everyone, you're not introduced to aliens, you know what I'm saying, from another country. We're all Americans right now, we're all here in this country together.
I was driving through North Carolina. Good friends of mine from New York. They live in North Carolina now. And I stopped and stayed with them for a few days. This was a few years back. Mm-hmm. And, my friend was saying, her daughter's now graduated college. Yeah. But when her kids were younger, one of her son and daughter's best friend was a little black kid in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And, he was at the house. And my friend said, I forget his name. Derek, are we going to see you this summer at the pool? And he's like, oh, no, Mrs. Fitzsimmons, you won't see me at the pool. Black people can't go to the pool. Oh. This was in 2016.
Oh, my God.
And my friend tells me this story. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh.
Really? I'm like, but, it's like people are very sheltered and they only know what they know. And if you're not out there in the world, you don't realize the restrictions that are on people. Like, I'm gay. And I try to tell my mother, I'm like, Ma, in 27 states, conversion therapy is still legal. It's still a thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, Joe, that is not true. I'm like, no, it is true. You need to just do some research.
You
know what I mean?
So
it's crazy, how people who are not white, white folks want to marginalize them, you know? And it's like we're all humans.
That's it. That's it.
And, and the beautiful thing of when I was out there doing the Justice for George book,
mm-hmm.
I saw people from all walks of life out there protesting in support of, reading the messages,
and like
affected by.
We saw this on all, in all of these cities, I said, all over the world, just all nationalities and ethnicities out there, because we're all human, and this happened to a human being. Let's grasp that and understand that this cannot happen. This is not what happens. If someone does a crime, let them have their day in court. You're not the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Right. That's not how that works. It's not how that works.
But the thing is, and I said this because the past 4.5 years with the last administration has caused me anxiety beyond. I never even thought I suffered anxiety. But you cannot let. When I've never even called him president, I call him the squatter, the White House. The squatter who was in Pennsylvania Avenue for 4 years. You cannot let him incite an insurrection on the Capitol and commit treason on the country, and then go to Mar-a-Lago and play golf.
Hello? How does that happen? How does that happen?
Actions have consequences, and if he's getting away with it, you look how many shootings have we had this week?
Right, exactly.
You know what?
Exactly.
I mean, so it's like people don't think actions have consequences because our country is so very lax.
Yeah.
With rules and regulations, and so the gun violence does not happen like this in other countries. Because if you're going to commit a mass shooting, there is a consequence that you are going to suffer.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they don't slap you on the hand and say, oh, well, he had mental issues. It's like, make an example of these people so they'll stop doing it. Of course they have mental issues, but there's still 12 people dead. They can't get their lives back. It's like, what caused this, And why did they think it'd be okay if they did it, It's scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
And now here we are. We're sitting on the edge of our seats waiting for this verdict to come in. Yeah. Every city is preparing, for rioting and protesting and whatever.
Yeah, rightfully so. No, I hope it turns out the way it should.
If an innocent verdict comes back, which I don't think an innocent verdict will come back, but I mean, this man has to do time.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, I watched the whole thing today. There was interesting arguments on both sides, because, you're seeing one thing, you're seeing this image from the prosecution, this image from the defense. So it's like, okay, you got to know the whole story.
Right.
So it'll be very interesting to see what the jurors come up with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because according to the defense, this was a very responsible cop doing the responsible thing, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And then of course that's not the way it looked when it was presented to us on TV.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think the jurors have a tough job ahead of them the next day or 2 or 3 days, however long they're going to take to deliberate. But the fact of the matter is, a man is dead, whether he had drugs in the system or what have you. Right. Whatever it was,
he took his life is gone. His life is gone.
Exactly.
And was he responsible for taking it? He didn't.
Yeah. Right. So and we're gonna see what happens the next couple of days. But every city's preparing for whatever may come from the outcome.
Right.
But you have to. I mean, again, actions have consequences. Like with the Dante Wright cop, you didn't mistake your taser for a gun.
My God, I cannot believe
26-year
that.
Veteran,
26-year veteran.
Taser for a gun.
They feel differently. She carried them on the opposite sides of her uniform. It's like, seriously,
and
really?
When you shoot a taser, you don't shoot in the areas that she shot at.
Yeah, okay.
And then when you shoot a gun, it takes an effort to shoot a gun.
Oh my
God. I think, oh my God, I shot him was just an act.
Yes, it was. It was like, I better say this so I can get off, mistake.
Right.
But this man is gone. Someone's child is gone. Someone's father is gone. Not coming back, So, yeah, my God.
I don't know.
And the chief tried to justify it.
We got a lot of work to do in this country.
Oh, yes, definitely.
We got a lot of work to do. And, unfortunately, through the past 4.5 years, we really, there was a lot of work that we had to do, and we failed. We failed the citizens of America. We failed the country. I mean, there's so much that could have been changed, and so much that could have been different, and so much that could have been addressed that was not. And so, therefore, it's like, here you go. It's like we're a country in decline.
We are, and it feels like it. It's in the air. It's like, where are we? We've got to pick ourselves up and change some things before we can move forward. It's like we're just falling into the abyss here. It's like, help! Someone help! Someone come up with a, problem solving solutions, because we can't keep going like this. We cannot keep going like this.
And that's why, like, these people out here now, justice for George, and like me, when I was out there putting the book together, it's like, you know what? There's people that this is his history, and I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to be out there during this horrific event that happened, and let me try to capture it. Like, my book could literally be, every teacher in the world could have a copy of this book in their library as a teaching tool, because it is what's happening and what's still happening.
Right. In 2021.
So it's like, I thought, and like I said, in the book, I did not want to kind of put much text in. I didn't want to kind of sway people's thoughts. I just wanted to put the images and let the images
the image, they speak for exactly. I was just thinking that the imagery speaks for itself. So, and in doing that, so you, what about the donations to the Black Lives Matter organizations? Tell us a little bit about that.
What happened is $2. The book is $40, and then $2 on every single book gets donated to a Black Lives Matter cause. Right now, my sister is in education. There's an organization called the Conscious Kid. So that's one of the causes that's benefiting right now from the book. And then, I'm choosing different ones as well. But Conscious Kid is an organization that gets school supplies to underprivileged kids in the community. So I got that. Other people have given me some different organizations as well. So anything that I do, I try to give back. So, So donations go out on any of my projects that I do.
Wonderful. So where can people see your work, or how can they support the Justice for George project?
Well, they could see my work. It's Joe Burns Photography on Instagram.
Okay.
Or my website is Joe Burns Photography.
Okay.
And then as far as the Justice for George book, they could reach me through my Facebook page, which is Joseph John Burns, Burns, and I have a photo book page, which the Justice for George book is listed. So people could find it there. And then what right now, because I'm starting small because I'm traveling, is they order the book directly through me, and they could pay PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, and then what I do is I have the book printed and shipped directly to them if it's for them, or if it's for a gift for someone. Like I just placed an order before I got on the phone with you. Someone was buying a friend a gift for their birthday, so then the book will be shipped directly to that address.
Okay.
So I'm not holding inventory right now, so I'm basically doing print on demand.
Oh, okay.
So when orders come in, then I place the order, have it shipped directly to the customer.
Okay. Oh, well, that's great. Very efficient. Okay. Well, oh, wow. Joe, this was a great conversation that needed to be had, and it needs to be had more with with other people,
Absolutely.
just to connect and to try to understand each other's realities here, because it's a lot of work that we need to do, within communities. So thank you for doing this project, and thank you for your insight on the whole situation, because it was refreshing to hear, that you have an understanding of what's actually happening out here. And
well, you have to be out there. You have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to be out there.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
I'm watching the news right now as we're speaking, and it's great to see everyone out there in support.
Right,
and it's not just the Black community.
Yeah, you're right.
It's white, brown, yellow. Everyone's out there.
Right.
It's a human matter what's happened.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's great. I thank you for doing what you do. Soleil doing for what she does. She's been amazing.
Yeah.
She's been an amazing ally. I worked with her for a number of years now, but she walks the talk.
Okay, yes.
Walk the walk and talk the talk. She really does.
Right.
She's out there, and she's someone who really wants to make a difference in this world.
Yes,
and is doing
she does. Yes, with
so.
her programming, and we it's amazing to meet guys like you all, because everyone's not the same, and you watch the news and you talk to certain people and you think, oh wow, you want to lump everybody together, but no two people are the same, period. But especially you can't stereotype, nationalities and ethnicities at all. You can't. You have to know the individual, and that's what's happening here. So thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do, and keep documenting, the world. And so, you can share. I've seen some of your work, and it's breathtaking. It's like, wow, this is really, really great work. Yeah.
I love being out there. It's a beautiful world out there. And so what my goal is, I'd like to share the beauty.
Yeah.
And because sometimes people don't get the opportunity to get out there and see it.
Exactly.
And, a lot of times we're, like right now, the world is not so beautiful. So I try to find the beauty within the chaos.
Oh, yes.
And show. And, through the imagery that I captured for the Justice for George book, it was very sad.
Yeah.
But yet, like I said, you got people out there of every race in support of.
Yeah.
And you read these images and you see the beautiful artwork that people created. It's unfortunate that it was created because someone died.
Exactly.
But there's beauty in every aspect of life.
That's true. And I think it's very necessary, especially for the Black community, to know that we do have allies out there. Everyone's not against us. We have people out there, like you. And if you've captured all of this, the different races and ethnicities at these protests, they literally out there fighting because something was done wrong and there needs to be change. So that's very helpful for us to know that. that. So thank you for sharing that. And like I say, I appreciate your work. And yeah, we'll definitely put your information on our social media sites. And I just hope the project is successful and all of these organizations are, helped, because it's needed.
Absolutely.
There's so much work to be done. So yeah, any help is appreciated.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad I could be out there and just kind of like, doing what I can do. I mean, we all need to do our parts.
Okay. Well, I am so glad we were able to connect. Like I said, we've been trying to do this for a while now, so I'm glad to talk to you. This is a wonderful conversation.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I thank you for taking the time, and you have a great evening.
Okay. And you as well. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
All right. Bye. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next month for an all-new episode of Green and Woke. And remember to keep it simple, keep it constant, keep it green, and together we can build a better planet. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Green and Woke. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel for great new content.